What's up, y'all? So, Representative Byron Donalds from Florida recently got a bill passed, HR 4922, which deals with crime in DC. So, Byron Donalds on the House floor is going to explain why this bill is good for DC and just his overall thought process and attitude about the other side and crime in DC. So he's going to talk about it, and then Jasmine Crocket is going to respond and point out some hypocrisies that are really only seen on the Republican side from the Republican Party. But I'll let Byron Donalds talk, and then Jasmine Crocket will talk directly after him.
Strong support of my bill, H.R. 4922, the D.C. Crimes Act. Now, in reference to what the gentleman was just talking about, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17 of the United States Constitution is quite clear. It grants Congress the power to exercise exclusive jurisdiction over the federal district, which all Americans know now is Washington, D.C., and it is the nation's capital. That is in the Constitution that was ratified by the several states. Congress does have the constitutional authority to regulate activities within the federal district. So when it is said that somehow Congress is now eroding local control, that is simply not true. Any local powers by the D.C. City Council have been granted to the D.C. City Council by Congress, and Congress is the seat of authority when it comes to the federal enclave. It was also talked about Florida's laws. Well, let's be very clear. Florida has established itself as a beacon of law and order and making sure that our citizens are safe throughout all of our jurisdictions. So if there are some abilities for some measures of flexibility, Florida has proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that it knows how to keep its people safe. Very different with respect to the D.C. City Council and with respect to crime, escalated crime here in the nation's capital. Our great nation's capital has been plagued by violence, destruction, disorder for far too long, and decades of weak, pro-crime leadership has turned this once great city into a dystopia. I would remind my colleagues on the other side of the aisle that some of their colleagues have been victimized by the crime here in Washington, D.C. Rather than prioritizing the safety of law-abiding and protecting the lives of innocent residents and visitors, district officials have actively facilitated dysfunction and chaos through their progressive soft-on-crime policies. Instead of addressing the clear epidemic of youth crime in the city, the D.C. City Council increased the age of youth offenders to individuals 24 years old and younger, meaning fully grown legal adults in the District of Columbia can receive sentences meant for children. This is simply insane. And that is why I introduced the D.C. Crimes Act, which lowers the definition of youth from under the age of 25 to under the age of 18, removes the ability of judges to sentence youth offenders below mandatory minimum guidelines, and requires the D.C. Attorney General to establish a public website containing much-needed statistics on juvenile crime in D.C. The Trump administration's efforts have shown that lawlessness is a choice. And it is time for Congress to step up, adhere to our constitutional duty, and firmly address crime in the nation's capital. For the citizens of D.C., I would say, we wish your council did this the right way, but they did not, and we will act. I yield back the balance of my time.
Before I get to Jasmine Crockett's response, I just want to say that there's just so much disingenuous conversation coming from really both sides, but I'm just going to point out the Republican Party right now. To say that anybody, any person is pro-crime doesn't even make any sense. I don't think there's anybody that's pro-crime unless you are an actual criminal. Now, if we want to say people are soft on crime, I don't know if black people would agree that there's a lot of soft people, like soft stances on crime. However, if you look at something like January 6th, you look at Donald Trump, you look at the amount of people that Donald Trump pardons just because Donald Trump is definitely soft on crime. But it's just interesting for Byron Donalds to say that the Democrats are soft on crime when Democrats are historically have been getting dragged about the crime bill from the 90s. I just think it's just an interesting deflection on his part. But I'll let Jasmine Crocket do the rest.
Sat and listened to the beginning of this debate, my heart simply broke. And many people know me for being able to do alliterations, and all I could think about was amnesia allows adolescent accountability avoidance agility from across the aisle. So work with me for a second. Imagine being a young man born to Jamaican and Panamanian parents who messed up not once but twice. Imagine standing in front of a judge with your whole future hanging in the balance, and instead of prison, you are given a promise of mercy. Your record gets wiped clean. You get a second chance at life. Now imagine taking that promise and turning it into promotion. You go to college, you get a job, and even become a member of Congress. That's what redemption looks like. That's what America is supposed to be about. And that is exactly the story of the next wannabe governor from Florida. As a young man, he went through pretrial diversion for misdemeanor marijuana possession. As an adult, yet younger than 24, he was charged with and ultimately placed on probation for felony robbery charges, which ultimately were 2 expunged. He was given a 3rd chance, and now he's the face of a bill that would not afford young people in Washington, D.C. the same opportunities afforded to him. Let me be real. If he had grown up under Donald Trump's America or under the very D.C. crime bill he's pushing today, he wouldn't be standing here as a member of Congress. He'd still be living with the weight of those charges. So let's call this what it is, opportunities for me, but not for thee. He climbed the ladder of redemption, and now he's yanking it right up from the D.C. youth. See, most of us were taught to lift as you climb, but clearly some have forgotten to lift as they climb, and now they are committed to telling the next generation to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. I will not sit quiet while a man who was saved by grace turns around and tries to snatch grace away from others. If we're going to be real about crime, about communities,
lady's time has expired.
I'd like to yield for an additional minute, please.
Gentlewoman is recognized.
About second chances and even 3rd chances, then it needs to start with us looking in the mirror and remembering that even the author of this bill has a story too before he tries to lecture DC on safety. And it would be complete hypocrisy to have, hypothetically, someone convicted of 34 felonies to lecture DC on what to do with youthful offenders who have been scientifically shown not to have fully developed brains under the age of 25, especially if said multi-count convicted felon was in his 70s when he was convicted. What would be his excuse? Because his brain would be fully developed, and with that, I will yield back.
So, there you have it. Jasmine Crocket totally undresses Byron Donalds, and you know, when you think about just the hypocrisy of some of our lawmakers, where they will create these laws and they will remove some of these benefits. They will take away your rights or take away your benefits after they have utilized them, used them, and became successful because of them. And Byron Donalds is a perfect example of someone who utilized the benefits of getting a second chance and the benefit of not having those mistakes carry him throughout his life. And he even says something to the effect of, crime is a choice, and he chose to commit crimes, break the law, and he was given a second opportunity, and now he wants to limit other people in getting a second opportunity and really a third opportunity for himself. I just think it's just interesting when you see these hypocrisies, and I have to credit Jasmine Crocket for responding immediately to Byron Donalds and his his willingness to accept assistance and accept mercy, but not willing to give mercy to other people. So I just found it interesting. I wanted to make a video. Hope you guys are paying attention to these bills, these laws that are being passed. The Republicans have control of the House, the Senate, and the White House, meaning that they pretty much can pass whatever they want, and we would have to deal with it. We would have to eat it, and then we would just have to adjust as we go along. So, hope you like this video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Helps us out a lot. Speed and Bullet Podcast and TBD the radio show. And with that, I'll leave you guys. Peace.